the true nature of superpowers is that they also bring challenges, even suffering, unless understood, supported, and harnessed. I have a question for you. Are you using the superpowers associated with your mental health diagnosis? Now, you might be wondering what I'm talking about. Why would I use superpowers to discuss something as serious as a mental health diagnosis? Now, most of us with a diagnosis and lived experience are more than well aware of the grief, pain, and suffering associated with profound depression, crippling anxiety, the numbing and surreal experiences of dissociation, or the disorienting and frightening time travel experience when something triggers our trauma. So, how could I possibly think that there is something like a superpower associated with those experiences? My lived experience with multiple mental health diagnoses and love of comics and movies that had superhero characters came together in a very unexpected way, causing me to flip the script on how I see myself and my diagnoses, and became the framework for transforming my life. I recognized that for all the grief these diagnoses had caused me, that they had also contributed to my successes, emotional intelligence, and the assets and gifts that I bring to the world. But that realization didn't happen until I was in my 40s and after a great deal of suffering. I wish I had grown up with my mental health diagnoses identified earlier, before a life-threatening crisis emerged, and that I had been given an understanding and appreciation for the gifts they had given me rather than just the pain, suffering, and stigma I had experienced. When I ask if someone is using their mental health superpowers, it's to get them thinking about how they see themselves in their diagnosis, because we are defined by labels that see us basically as disordered or deficient. When the name of our diagnosis has stigma baked right in, it's no surprise that we experience stigma from those around us, and that we even internalize stigma and have problems with self-confidence. With superheroes, we see their powers first and challenges afterwards. And we empathize with their struggles as they embrace their superpowers and become the heroes that we know and love. I want others to see their assets first, so that they can embrace their superpowers, not only to survive and better manage their diagnoses, but to thrive and succeed because of them, not despite them. And so that they can be spared the delay on reframing that I had, and get the early and strong start that I missed out on. Now, this perspective doesn't pretend that life will be perfect or that our diagnoses will magically disappear. Rather, it recognizes our struggles while empowering us to build up assets. Now, because mental health diagnoses are cloaked in stigma, which, as I said, get internalized and doubles down on our pain and suffering, I understand that there are going to be some wondering how I could dare to think that there were any parts of a diagnosis that could be called superpowers, something that most of us see as positives and great gifts. However, the true nature of superpowers is that they also bring challenges, even suffering, unless understood, supported, and harnessed. With superheroes, we see the positives first and the challenges after, and people empathize with struggling heroes. With mental health, only the challenges are seen, and judgment and stigma tend to outweigh sympathy. Flipping the script on our diagnosis with a superhero model ultimately defeats stigma by leading with our strengths, managing our challenges, and viewing ourselves with empathy, and creating the opportunity for others to see us through this reframed, destigmatizing, and empowering perspective. Let me give you some examples from my life and my reframing of some of my mental health diagnoses through the world of superheroes. As a kid, I was considered cautious and called picky about my attention to detail, and weird for sensing things that others might not pick up on. I adapted well to changing situations on the fly, often getting out of awkward social situations before things went sideways. And kids like me who are strategic thinkers are usually considered kind of wound a little tightly by our peers and mature or gifted by our teachers. Welcome to the upside of my anxiety brain. My spidey senses. Peter Parker's threat recognition is my attention to detail. Just as his web slinging adapts to changing situations, so do my pivots and ability to quickly reconfigure a plan. Or, better yet, have developed not just a plan A, but possibly plans B through L, but who's counting? Thinking about my anxiety this way helps me keep it focused to serve me and to recognize when it wants to overwhelm me. So, not that I can just keep it better in check, but I can actually use it, well, to serve me, use my powers for good. Another useful trait has been grounded realism, something that comes with lived experience of depression. I always think of Bucky Barnes when I think of my ability to see what lurks in the shadows, even when I am well out of the dark places that my mind has taken me. Like Bucky, I am mindful of past actions and their outcomes. The difference with seeing this as a superpower, rather than something that my inner critic can use to beat me up with, is recognizing that I can use this insight to troubleshoot and anticipate problems when planning, ensuring that I'm better prepared, which I have to say works rather nicely with those strategic planning spidey senses. Like Bucky was able to eventually break the associations with the triggering words that Hydra used to turn him into the Winter Soldier, I have come to recognize and use a variety of tools to break the negative association with the kinds of depressive thoughts, habits, and feelings that try to suck me back into dark places. Now, also like Bucky, I often fought against my own healing because I felt I wasn't worthy. But reminding myself of his story and using it to better integrate those tools into my life has been transformative. I'm also a trauma survivor, having grown up with an abusive parent, and later, despite my best efforts to not repeat the cycle, I married an abuser. Trauma gave my inner critic an endless loop of negative things to trigger my anxiety, depression, and undermining my self-worth and self-compassion. I realized that my affinity for the X-Men's Wolverine was not only because I endured the pain inflicted on me by others, but that trauma had created anger, frustration, and the desire to lash out when hurt. Trying to seek help and talk about my mental health made me feel like a mutant too, othered, ostracized, and stigmatized, even by members of my own family. Even medical professionals who were supposed to be helping me did things that left me frustrated, angry, and suffering, well, memory loss just like Wolverine. And like him, I really did not appreciate feeling like somebody else's science experiment. But most importantly, Wolverine showed me the loyalty, empathy, and healing that I carried within myself. Long before I ever imagined a program like Embrace Your Superpowers, it was Wolverine that started my reframing journey, reminding me that superheroes can have bad days, and it doesn't make them any less a superhero. If you're like me and you want to find assets where others see liabilities, or you want to feel strength and healing where you're used to feeling powerlessness and pain, reframing your diagnosis is an easy and effective way to find and start to use your mental health superpowers. It doesn't have to be complicated, and in fact, one of my favorite sort of starting reframes is called obstacle to opportunity, because it helps us overcome the stigma that we face from the labels and judgments others place upon us, and that we usually tend to internalize in the form of our inner critic. And we shut it down by reminding ourselves of what we do well and that we can love being different. Now, to do obstacle to opportunity, you can do this with a simple piece of paper, just divide it into two columns. On the left side, at the top, write obstacle, what they see. And on the right side, write opportunity, what I see. Under obstacle, write the differences, especially the ones that you associate with your diagnosis, things that others point out negatively. And under opportunity, consider what they are missing out on and also what you're missing out on as a strength that you could be developing and showcasing. For example, does your finding typos annoy others because they think you're finding fault with their work? Oh, wait a minute. You've got a great attention to detail, and that's an anxiety-related superpower. And the opportunity presented is that you're making sure that a professional document is getting handed in for the group project or to the printers before going to a client. With this example, under obstacle, you would write, they see me finding fault and judging when I point out typos. Under opportunity, you'd write, I see attention to detail and handing in work that we can all be proud of. Take this piece of paper and come up with 3 or 4 more examples to begin to explore how your differences provide opportunities that you can reframe, embrace, and showcase. And for this and other superhero reframes, you can click on the link below for a free superhero workbook or to check out the Embrace Your Superpowers program, including our new online membership community at www.speak-up.co. And don't forget to post your comments and questions below. Like and share this video, and if you want more superhero tools and perspectives, subscribe to this channel and follow Speak Up on social media. Bye-bye.